Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. And I want to say Happy New Year. Today is January 1st, 2020. So it's a new year. It's also a new decade. And hopefully you are starting out this new year being narcissist free. I know I am. I am 8 months out of the relationship and 3.5 months no contact. So far so good. So hopefully you are celebrating being narcissist free as well. So in this video, I wanted to talk about some of the signs of narcissistic personality disorder. These are things that maybe you suspect that you were dating a narcissist. Maybe you suspect that you are in a relationship with a narcissist. Something seems off about this person and you can't quite put your finger on it. And you notice a lot of certain qualities and characteristics that are unbecoming, and you kind of want to figure out what's going on. And so in this video, I wanted to talk about narcissistic personality disorder and all of the things that you're going to notice if you are dating a narcissist. These are things that I noticed with my ex-boyfriend. So you'll notice that he or she has an excessive need for admiration. This is something that my ex totally had. He wanted everyone to admire him. He wanted everyone to think he was amazing. He needed to always be noticed. Like he needed to be the most important person in the room, and he always wanted everyone's attention. They have a disregard for other people's feelings. So they'll say rude things or hurt your feelings, and you'll get upset and they'll kind of look at you like, who cares? Get over it. They don't have any compassion for people. So they're able to not really take other people's feelings into consideration. This is something that clearly my ex did for the entire relationship. They're unable to handle any criticism. So it's funny that they could dish it out, but they can't take it. This is something totally that my ex did. He would talk crap about everybody and criticize everyone else and point out their shortcomings. He did this with a lot of his guy friends. He would point out things. Um, he had this one friend that he thought was overweight, and he would call the guy fat and make fun of his appearance behind his back. And it always bothered me because I was just like, okay, why are you talking about people's looks and all of that? But yet, if somebody said something to him, like about his weight, or if he was eating something or whatever, he would flip out. So they can dish it out, but they really can't take it. They're horrible at taking criticism, but they love to criticize. So that's something that you'll definitely notice. And they have a huge sense of entitlement. My ex, totally, this is like hitting the nail on the head. He was so entitled. He thought that he was just exempt from having to do anything that required work or anything that sucked, anything that was uncomfortable, anything that he didn't want to do. He thought he was above it. He thought he was better than everyone else in the room. And he felt so entitled to just have the best of everything. And he was always like this. And this is probably something that you'll notice about your narcissist in your life. Also, the narcissist exaggerates their achievements and talents. This is something that my ex was the king of doing. So he would actually like invent things that he didn't really do. So he would lie and say, for example, that he was a cage fighter. He told me that he did MMA fighting, all of these things, and he never did. So they'll like invent talents and things that they don't really have, and they'll say that they do them. He says that he's an artist and that he can draw really good, but yet in the 2 years that I was dating him, I never saw him draw a thing. He never did any artwork. I don't know what the hell he was talking about. It was like they just want to pick things that they think sound cool or think that like, oh, well, not everyone can be an artist. Not everyone's that talented. So then they want to pretend that they have that talent and they have that ability. But they really don't. I mean, you'll notice the narcissist like bragging about things that they can do, but then they never back it up. So he said, he was an amazing cook. Again, after 2 years with him, he never cooked me a thing. Not once in 2 years. So he never made me anything. I never saw any evidence that he knew how to be a chef or a cook. I never saw him draw anything or paint anything. He never did any fighting. I mean, he tried to say he was like a cage fighter and all of this stuff, which is crazy. And there was never any evidence of that. One of the other things, it was like the biggest thing in our relationship, and you've heard me talk about this in other videos. He told me for the entire relationship that he was a combat veteran and he literally pretended to be in Iraq. So he pretended for our entire relationship that he did 3.5 tours in Iraq and got injured, had PTSD, had shrapnel still in his body, and he told me he had 2 Purple Hearts. So he also said he had like other awards and accolades and told me that he was the 12th highest decorated Marine to ever serve in Iraq. Yeah, he actually said this to me. So none of this was true. And of course, I didn't find out until 2 years into the relationship that it was all a lie. So they totally exaggerate achievements, and they'll actually not only exaggerate them, but make them up entirely. They will literally make up things and say that they've done them. Or if they do, like if they can play the guitar or something, they'll just exaggerate it and make it sound like they're like the best guitar player, but they're not. Um, they have no empathy at all. They don't feel bad for other people. This is something that I totally noticed with my ex. It was like, like something we'd be watching a show or something, and something bad would happen to a couple on TV or whatever, and I would feel really bad. And sometimes I would cry to shows and get like wrapped up in the emotions of it. And I'd be like, oh my God, like that's so sad. And he wouldn't ever care. He wouldn't have any empathy or feelings for other people. Like if he saw something bad happening to a good person, it didn't really affect him. And if something bad happened to me, he didn't care. For example, he gave me an STD. And this was something that was really, really, really damaging to me. It totally affected my self esteem. I got depressed. I had anxiety over it. And there was no remorse from him. No remorse whatsoever. He did not care that he gave me an STD. And there was no empathy or compassion at all from him. And he never even pretended to have any. He would actually get angry at me if I would bring it up. So you'll notice that they literally have no empathy for others at all. They like to control and monopolize conversations. The whole conversation has to be about the narcissist. You'll definitely notice this. This is something that my ex did all the time, and it was so embarrassing. Like we'd be at his friend's house or wherever, and he would just always turn the conversation back on himself. He would talk over other people. There was this older guy that was a friend of his, and he lived down the street from me. And we would talk to this older couple and we'd go over to their house, and my ex would like cut this guy off mid sentence and just talk loudly over him and steer the conversation back to himself. And all narcissists love all the attention all the time. They always want the spotlight on them. So that's something that you'll definitely notice, is that they control conversations. They have to talk over everyone, be the loudest person in the room. The conversation always has to be about the narcissist. They love to belittle other people. And again, I was saying this before, my ex like called people fat and made fun of their appearance. And he just always loved to put down others. And I couldn't help but wonder about what he said about me behind my back. Because I would always hear the things he said about other people. Narcissists are extremely two-faced and they love to put other people down behind their backs. My ex did this all the time. He would be so phony and talking to someone to their face and being like, hey, yeah, bro. He would call him bro and act like he was this guy's best friend. And then literally the second the guy would leave, he would sit there and tear him down to me. He would make fun of his appearance. He would make fun of something he said. He would talk about his life like my ex was so much better than this guy. And he did this repeatedly. He would be so fake and phony to someone's face, and then right when they left, he would literally tear the person down behind their back. He was extremely two-faced. So that is definitely something that you will notice the narcissist doing. Narcissists expect special favors from people. They think that they deserve everything in the world. They're so entitled, and they get really pissed if people don't do what they want. They just love to take advantage of other people. If somebody has something that the narcissist wants, they don't feel bad for taking advantage of that person, for lying to them to get whatever they want out of them. They don't care. As long as it benefits the narcissist, then they're happy. They don't care about other people's feelings, other people's emotions. They literally only care about themselves. One thing that you'll notice about narcissists too is that they're really jealous and envious of other people. This is something that my ex was also this was like him to a T. He had a friend, it was the same friend that he actually made fun of his weight. This guy had a boat, and my ex was very jealous of this boat. He went out boating with him one time and came back home after this outing and told me that he wanted to buy a boat. Now, keep in mind, my ex didn't pay child support. At the time, he didn't even have a job, and he also didn't have his license or have a vehicle. So you don't even have money to get a car, but you're going to spend thousands of dollars on a boat. What are you going to hitch the boat to? This was literally a huge fight he had with me. He acted like I was being ridiculous and I wasn't being supportive because he wanted to be a boat owner. And it made no sense. It literally made no sense. And he only wanted a boat because his friend had one. Anything that anyone else had, he had to have it too. He was so jealous. So you will definitely notice the narcissist being jealous of everyone. They are expert manipulators and they're obsessed with pathological lying. As I said, my ex pretended to be in Iraq. He pretended to have PTSD. He pretended to have Purple Hearts. He lied about all kinds of stuff. He said his mom owned restaurants that she never owned. He said he had a motorcycle, which he didn't have. He said that he was an artist and he did MMA and all of these things. None of these things were true. He literally lied to me about every single thing about himself. Narcissists are expert pathological liars. They will lie from the day they meet you until the end of the relationship. So that is something that you will definitely notice. Narcissists also do the love bombing, the devalue, and the discard. When you first meet them, they will blow you up with tons of attention and affection, love, admiration, whatever, because they're trying to use you. They want something. So they try to build you up and make you the center of their world so they can get what they want, and then they have no use for you. So then they start devaluing you and treating you like shit. Narcissists like to project everything onto other people. This is something that my ex did all the time. It's basically projection is accusing you of something that they're actually doing. So my ex was cheating on me and he would get paranoid that I was the one cheating on him. He actually projected his narcissism on me. He told me before that I was a narcissist or that I made everything about me and that I was always the one who had to have all the attention. He told me once that I literally did not respect his boundaries. That was laughable. He was living in my home, unemployed, doing heroin, cheating on me, pathologically lying to me. And yet I didn't respect his boundaries. I told him not to use drugs in my house. That was a deal breaker in our relationship. I did not want to be with a drug addict, and he kept lying and saying he would change and saying he wasn't using drugs anymore. So it's kind of laughable that they they'll say the things that they're doing. Like it's weird that he told me that I didn't respect his boundaries, as he was currently not respecting my boundaries. Usually narcissists will cheat on you. So cheating is one of the things as well. Narcissists never take responsibility. So whatever you catch them doing or whatever, they're never going to own up to it and apologize. They will never admit anything. Everything is always somebody else's fault. That is something that my ex was the king of. He never owned anything. Narcissists don't like to be alone. So they go from relationship to relationship. They leapfrog. They always have to have somebody in their life. They go from person to person. They can't sit with themselves because narcissists are completely empty inside and they hate themselves and they're full of shame and self-loathing. So if they don't have someone there to give them supply and keep them occupied, then they're left with their own thoughts and they don't want to do that. Narcissists have difficulty regulating their emotions. Um, Sort of like that up and down roller coaster, the Jekyll and Hyde. My ex was always doing this. I thought he was bipolar. I didn't know what was going on. Before I realized he was a narcissist, I was researching all of these things on Google, and I literally thought that he was bipolar because he was constantly up and down all the time. They feel depressed and moody. That was something that my ex always was. He was always depressed, always moody. They become angry when they don't get what they want. And sometimes they react with rage, and that's the narcissistic rage. If they want something from you and you have a boundary and tell them no, they will flip out, and you will literally see them turn into like a complete monster. It could be scary. My ex did this a couple times where he was like full on narcissistic rage, and I was definitely afraid of him. It can be very, very scary to experience, and that might be something that you can relate to in your relationship. You'll notice that narcissists have a lot of relationship problems. They can't ever have long lasting friendships. They don't have good relationships with their families. Um, they don't really have genuine friendships. They don't get along with people like their bosses. So they have a lot of like relationship issues in their life. They have difficulty at work. A lot of times they don't even have jobs. If they do, they don't get along with their coworkers. They don't get along with their boss. They don't like rules. They don't like responsibility. So they'll show up late or do a bad job. They think that they're above everything. So they might think that they're better than the job that they're doing, or they're above it and they shouldn't have to do it. Um, you'll notice that they're depressed and they have a lot of anxiety. My ex was like always depressed. There were times he wouldn't even get out of bed and wouldn't even get dressed. And he was always anxious. It was like he was always fidgeting and like acting paranoid and weird and just like always super anxiety ridden. And he had a lot of trouble sleeping at night. A lot of times he wouldn't sleep at all. And I don't really know what kept him up at night, but he just never, it was like he was afraid to go to sleep. So I don't really know what that was about. But you'll notice that the narcissist will also have drug or alcohol problems. A lot of times they try to use things to escape the issues in their life. They don't ever want to like, you know, realize how bad their life is. They don't want to look at things the way they are, so they turn to things as an escape. They don't want to realize how shitty their life is, and they never take accountability. So they're not ever going to like own up to something that they've done or admit that they're this or that. They would rather cover up their problems with drugs or alcohol and just sort of pretend that their life is perfect. So they have no self like introspection. So they literally just turn to drugs, which of course my ex did. He was a raging heroin addict and he also took pills. So I suspect he may have done meth, but I don't really know. I mean, I'm not 100% on that, but I think he would probably take any drug that he could get his hands on, honestly. Anything that helps him escape the reality of his life, I think he would take it. So you'll probably notice the narcissist is like abusing drugs or alcohol. A lot of times they can have suicidal thoughts or behavior. This is something that my ex totally did. He would actually get suicidal and he did self harm. He had like all these scars like all over his arms and stuff. And I was always like, how'd you get these? And he never really had answers that made sense. And I always thought that he was cutting himself. He would punch himself in the head in front of me. So if he was having a hard time regulating his emotions and he was upset about something, or something wasn't going his way, whatever, he wouldn't know how to handle it like a normal person. And he would just freak out and he would punch himself in the head. And he would do it so hard. I mean, it scared me. It scared me a lot. And I would start crying. I thought he would give himself a concussion. I mean, it was really scary to see. And so they can, sit there and do self harming behaviors. Narcissists are just, they're full of shame and self loathing, and they're honestly miserable, miserable people. And maybe there's some other things that you notice about your narcissist that I haven't mentioned in this video, but I'm sure that there are multiple things on this list that you will go, oh my God, they do this or they do that, or it all starts coming together and making sense to you. The more I researched narcissistic personality disorder, the more my ex made sense. I knew something was wrong with him. I knew something was off with him, but I didn't know exactly what. And I was looking online all the time. I thought he was bipolar. I thought he had borderline personality disorder. I thought he had schizoid disorder. I didn't know what was going on. And then finally, when I discovered narcissistic personality disorder, it all made sense. He had like every single check mark. So if you're suspicious that the person in your life is a narcissist, um, It will become crystal clear. Just keep researching it, look at the symptoms and the signs. Maybe all of the things that I've mentioned in this video you notice are traits and characteristics that the person in your life was showing. If you do suspect that they're a narcissist, the only advice I have is to get away from them, because narcissists cannot change. There has never been a recorded case where a narcissist can develop empathy. They lack empathy. And if you don't develop it by like the time you're 5 years old, I don't think you do develop it. And they can't just develop empathy at like 40 years old. It's not going to happen. So if the person is a narcissist, I would say get away from them. Just get out of the relationship as soon as you can, because they're incapable of change. And it doesn't matter how many times they promise to change, they're not going to. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. And maybe if this video was helpful, you will check out some of the other videos that I have on my channel. And Happy New Year, everybody. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.